the 15th of April 1943, 28,000 feet above the coast of northern France. The air up here is thin, lethal, and sits at a bone-chilling 40 degrees below zero. Inside the cockpit of his Messerschmitt Bf 109 G6, Oberleutnant Karl Becker feels the familiar vibration of the Daimler-Benz engine humming through the soles of his flight boots. He adjusts his oxygen mask, his eyes scanning the horizon through the scratched plexiglass. He is a hunter, and today, the prey looks confused. Below him, moving in a loose formation against the patchwork quilt of French farmland, are the Americans. But these aren't the Spitfires the Luftwaffe respects, nor the sleek Mustangs that will appear later in the war. These are the new arrivals, the Republic P-47 Thunderbolts. Becker keys his throat mic, a crackle of static cutting through the roar of the engine. "Look at them," he sneers in German to his wingman. "They look like milk trucks trying to fly." From the vantage point of a veteran German ace, the P-47 is a joke. It is a grotesque violation of aerodynamic aesthetics. A Messerschmitt is a rapier, slim, agile, weighing in at just over 6,000 pounds fully loaded. The American plane? It is a blunt instrument. It weighs nearly 14,000 pounds. It is twice the weight of the planes trying to kill it. It has a massive pot-bellied fuselage designed to house a turbocharger the size of a small car. When the P-47 sits on the runway, the pilot sits so high off the ground he looks like he's riding a house. To the Luftwaffe pilots circling like sharks in the sun, this isn't a fighter plane. It's a target. They call it the Amoebufel, the American Buffalo. Heavy, slow to climb, impossible to maneuver. Attack formation, Becker orders. Dive and slash. They cannot turn with us. Inside the cockpit of the lead Thunderbolt, Colonel Hub Zemke, commander of the 56th Fighter Group, is wrestling with the beast. He knows exactly what the Germans are thinking. He can feel the sluggishness in the stick. The P-47 is a flying tank, and right now, at cruising speed, it feels like one. The massive Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine in front of him is screaming 2,000 horsepower trying to tear the propeller off the nose, but the physics are against him. Zemke checks his 6. He sees the glint of sunlight on canopies diving from the clouds above. "Bandits, 12 o'clock high, break right." The formation scatters, but not with the graceful balletic scatter of a Spitfire squadron. The Thunderbolts roll slowly, their massive wings fighting the air resistance. Becker pushes his stick forward. His Bf 109 drops like a stone, the airspeed indicator winding up past 400 kilometers per hour. He picks out a straggler, a Thunderbolt, that seems to be wallowing in the air, trying desperately to pull its nose up. "Too easy," Becker mutters. He lines up his reflector sight. The silhouette of the P-47 fills the glass. It's huge. It's a barn door. You almost can't miss. Becker squeezes the trigger. The 20mm cannon in the nose of the Messerschmitt thuds rhythmically, sending streaks of tracer fire arcing through the sky. Thump, thump, thump. The shells slam into the right wing and fuselage of the American plane. Pieces of aluminum rip away. Smoke trails from the engine cowling. In any other aircraft, a Zero, a Spitfire, even a Bf 109 that burst would have sheared the wing off or ignited the fuel tanks instantly. But the P-47 doesn't explode. It shudders, it dips, and then, to Becker's absolute disbelief, it keeps flying. The American pilot, wrestling with the controls, realizes he can't outturn the German on his tail. If he tries to bank and dogfight, the lighter German plane will cut inside his turn and blow him out of the sky. The Thunderbolt turns like a brick. The German is right on him, closing for the kill shot. Panic flares in the cockpit. The American knows the standard doctrine, climb or turn. But the P-47 climbs poorly and turns worse. He has only one option left, an option that defies the instincts of every pilot taught to fight for altitude. He slams the throttle forward to emergency power, kicks the rudder over, and pushes the stick forward until it hits the instrument panel. He dives. Becker watches the smoking American plane nose over. He laughs. The fool is diving? In a plane that heavy? He's going to compress. The air pressure will lock his controls, and he'll lawn dart straight into the French countryside. He is running. Becker radios. "I will finish him." The German ace pulls his Messerschmitt into a pursuit dive. He expects to catch the heavy American tub within seconds. He expects gravity to do the work. He expects the milk truck to fall apart as the speed increases. He is about to learn the first lesson of the Thunderbolt. Gravity loves a heavy object. Becker pushes his stick forward, committing his sleek Messerschmitt to the pursuit. The laws of physics, he reasons, are on his side. He is lighter, more aerodynamic, and already in a dominant position. He expects to close the distance in a heartbeat, fire a short burst to shred the American canopy, and pull up for a victory roll. But 5 seconds into the dive, something is wrong. The distance between the two planes isn't shrinking, it's growing. Inside the cockpit of the P-47, the American pilot is riding a meteor. He has discovered the terrifying secret of the Thunderbolt. While its massive weight makes it sluggish on the climb, that same mass transforms it into a kinetic missile when pointed at the Earth. 7 tons of metal, fueled by gravity and 2,000 horsepower, are slicing through the atmosphere with a violence that no lightweight German fighter can replicate. The altimeter unwinds like a clock in fast-forward 20,000 feet, 18,000, 15,000. The airspeed indicator in the P-47 vibrates past 400 miles per hour, then 450. The roar of the wind outside is deafening, drowning out even the scream of the double Wasp engine. The controls are heavy, stiffening like concrete as the air pressure builds against the control surfaces. But the plane feels solid. It doesn't shudder, it charges. Behind him, Becker is fighting for his life. The Messerschmitt Bf 109 is a masterpiece of engineering, but it is delicate. As the speedometer creeps past 750 kilometers per hour, the German plane begins to protest. The stick, usually so responsive, feels locked in place. The wings begin to flutter a terrifying, rhythmic vibration that travels up Becker's spine. He knows this feeling. It is the onset of compressibility. The air cannot move out of the way of his wings fast enough. Shock waves are forming, hammering the airframe. If he pushes any harder, the tail section will rip off. Becker grits his teeth, sweat stinging his eyes under his flight goggles. Why won't he break apart? He screams into his mask. He watches in horror as the smoking, damaged P-47 continues to accelerate, pulling away with impossible speed. The milk truck is diving faster than sound seems to carry. It is falling like a safe dropped from a skyscraper, and the German fighter is merely a feather trying to catch it. At 8,000 feet, the ground is rushing up to meet them, a blur of green and brown. The moment of truth has arrived. To survive, they must pull out. For the P-47 pilot, this is the gamble. The dive is easy, the recovery is the hard part. He grips the stick with both hands, boots jamming against the rudder pedals, and pulls back with every ounce of strength in his body. He is fighting tons of air pressure pinning the elevators down. The G-forces slam into him, crushing him into his seat. His vision grays at the edges, tunneling down to a pinpoint. The massive wings of the Thunderbolt groan under the strain, the rivets screaming. But the structural integrity holds. The jug was built like a bridge, not a kite. Slowly, agonizingly, the nose begins to lift. Becker tries to follow, but he cannot. His lighter aircraft is shaking so violently he can't read his instrument panel. He realizes, with a jolt of cold terror, that if he tries to match the Americans' pullout, his wings will snap like dry twigs. Abort! Abort! Becker yells, cutting the throttle and gently easing back on the stick, praying the controls will respond. He watches, helpless, as the P-47 bottoms out of its dive at treetop level, leveling off at over 500 miles per hour. The American plane, trailing smoke but still very much alive, streaks across the French countryside, putting miles between itself and the Luftwaffe in seconds. Becker levels his plane out at 5,000 feet, his heart hammering against his ribs. The sky below him is empty. The target is gone. He checks his fuel gauge, his hands trembling slightly. He had mocked the American plane for being a brick. He had laughed at its size, but he had just learned a deadly lesson. A brick, when dropped from high enough, hits harder and faster than anything else in the sky. But the Americans weren't just using this speed to run away. As the months wore on, Becker and his squadron mates would begin to see the P-47 seconds doing something even more terrifying. They weren't just diving to escape anymore. They were diving to attack. The tactic was called Zoom and Boom, and it was about to turn the Luftwaffe's mockery into a massacre. It is late 1943. The air war has changed. The Germans are no longer the hunters picking off stragglers. They are the desperate defenders of the Reich, trying to stop the endless streams of American bombers pounding their cities. High above the Rhineland, a squadron of Focke-Wulf 190 seconds is climbing to intercept a bomber stream. They are excellent aircraft, heavy hitters, faster than the older Messerschmitts. But as they break through the cloud layer, a shadow falls over them. Thousands of feet above, lurking in the thin air where they perform best, are the Thunderbolts. The German flight leader looks up, his stomach dropping. He sees the distinct, elliptical silhouettes of the P-47 seconds. But they aren't wallowing. They aren't turning. They are tipping their noses down. Achtung! Indians at 12 o'clock high. The P-47 seconds initiate the zoom and boom. They convert their altitude into raw, screaming speed. They don't try to dogfight the Focke-Wulfs. They don't try to turn with them. They simply fall upon them like avalanches. A P-47, screaming down at 500 miles per hour, closes the gap in seconds. The American pilot doesn't need to maneuver. He just needs to point his nose. He unleashes the full fury of his armament. 8 50 caliber M, 2 Browning machine guns mounted in the wings. This is not the polite thump-thump of a cannon. It is a chainsaw roar. Nearly 100 rounds per second tear through the air. The convergence point is a wall of lead that saws through metal, glass, and flesh. The German leader watches his wingman disintegrate. One moment the Focke-Wulf is flying, the next, its wing is sheared off by the sheer volume of American fire. The P-47 flashes past, a silver blur, and uses its tremendous momentum to zoom straight back up into the safety of the upper atmosphere, ready to drop again. It is a pendulum of death that the Germans cannot stop. But the final realization, the true horror for the Luftwaffe, comes in the head-on pass. Desperate to break up the formations, German pilots begin flying straight at the Americans. A game of aerial chicken, counting on the other pilot to flinch and break away. A young German pilot in a Bf 109 lines up a P-47. He commits to the head-on. He fires his nose cannon. He sees hits. Explosive shells sparkle against the P-47's cowling. He expects the American engine to seize, the coolant to spray, the plane to explode. But the P-47 has no coolant to leak. Its massive Pratt & Whitney radial engine is air-cooled, a solid block of hardened steel cylinders that acts like a shield for the pilot. It eats the German bullets and keeps running. The American doesn't flinch. He doesn't break. He holds the trigger. The German pilot realizes too late that he has brought a knife to a gunfight. The 8 American machine guns open up. The fragile, liquid-cooled engine of the Messerschmitt is smashed instantly. The cockpit is shredded. The German plane ceases to exist as a flying machine. By 1944, the laughter has died completely. The fat beast has cleared the skies. But it isn't finished. With the Luftwaffe broken, the P-47 seconds turn their attention downward. Loaded with bombs and rockets, they become the Jabos, the ground attack terror of the Wehrmacht. German tank commanders, who once feared nothing, now scramble into ditches at the sound of that distinct, heavy engine note. They look up to see the plane they once mocked diving on them, not like a brick, but like a hammer of the gods. The Luftwaffe had laughed at the Thunderbolt's weight. They failed to realize that in war, weight is just another word for momentum. And when the P-47 hit them, it hit with the weight of an entire nation's industrial might behind it, sweeping their Zeros and their Messerschmitts from the sky, and burying the myth of German superiority in the smoking craters of Europe.